In a world where kindness is often overlooked and love is sometimes taken for granted, one young woman dared to hold on to faith, compassion, and integrity despite losing everything, from the dusty streets of Ningi in northern Nigeria to the glittering towers of wealth and power. This is the extraordinary true life inspired story of Helen, an orphan, a nurse, a woman of unshakable strength, whose single act of kindness to a stranger changed her life forever. What happens when faith rewards the forgotten? When love finds you in your lowest moments? Stay with us as we unfold a tale of pain, sacrifice, betrayal, and divine destiny. This is Olu Beauty African Folktales channel. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed and call all your friends and family. Grab your popcorn, sit jeje and enjoy yourself. Oh yeah, let's go there. In the quiet town of Ningi, nestled in the heart of Bauchi state, a little girl named Helen Yusuf was born on a rainy evening, the kind of rain that seems to whisper secrets from heaven. She was the first and only child of Malam Yusuf and Mama Halima, a humble but loving couple. Malam Yusuf, a respected local teacher, doted on his little girl and believed that Helen was destined for something great. But fate had other plans. Barely 2 years after Helen's birth, tragedy struck. Her father died in a motor accident on his way to the city to attend a teacher's workshop. The grief was unbearable. But worse was what came after. In accordance with old traditions that favored male inheritance, Malam Yusuf's brothers swooped in and took everything: the house, the land, and even the little savings Malam Yusuf had left for Helen's future. You are just a woman, they sneered at Halima. You have no right to own property, they said. Mother and child were thrown out of their home with nothing but a mat and a broken cooking pot. From that day on, they lived hand to mouth, sleeping in a small mud hut that Halima built with her bare hands at the edge of the town. Despite her suffering, Halima was determined to raise Helen well. She taught her to be kind, honest, hardworking, and to always care for others, even when life seemed unfair. Halima would often say, "My daughter Helen, the world may not be kind to you, but you must never let it change your good heart. Understand?" And Helen would say, "Yes, mommy." Helen excelled in school. Her dream was to become a nurse, to save lives, to care for the weak, perhaps because deep down she never forgot how helpless she and her mother were when her father died. Just when Helen was preparing to write her WAEC exams, her mother began to fall ill. She complained of pains, fatigue, and unexplained weight loss. Doctors in the local clinic diagnosed her with cancer, but by then it was too late. Treatment was expensive, and the hospitals turned them away. Helen watched helplessly as her mother faded before her eyes. One night, under the flicker of a kerosene lamp, Halima held her daughter's hand and whispered her last words and said, "Be strong, my child. Be the healer I couldn't be. And when the world turns its back on you, give it love." After saying all that, she gave up the ghost and died. And just like that, Helen was alone in the world. Life after Halima's death was nothing short of torture. Helen was homeless. She begged for food. She worked on people's farms, washed plates, sold fruits on a wheelbarrow, and scrub floors just to earn enough to pay for her exams. People called her names like orphan, gutter girl, fruit seller, but Helen never stopped. With every insult, she remembered her mother's words. It took her 5 years, but she saved enough to apply for nursing school in the city. There, life wasn't much better. She slept in hostels with leaking roofs, studied by candlelight, and often went hungry, but she passed every exam with flying colors. Eventually, she graduated with excellent results and got a job at Hope General Hospital, one of the busiest hospitals in the city. Though she was new, Helen's reputation spread quickly. She treated the patients like family, stayed late hours, and even used her salary to buy drugs for those who couldn't afford them. Doctors praised her, patients blessed her, but not everyone was happy. Some of her co nurses, especially Nurse Sandra and Nurse Grace, who came from wealthy families, grew jealous and they said, who does she think she is? Just because she's good at changing bandages? Is that why she'll be carrying herself as if she's better than everyone here? She should mind herself, they said. They mocked her, sabotaged her work, and spread rumors. But Helen remained focused. She had seen too much pain to be distracted by pettiness. One fateful evening, an accident victim was rushed into the emergency ward. His body was covered in blood and bruises, his face unrecognizable. He had no phone, no ID, no one to claim him. The hospital did what they could, but after a few days, they gave up. The medical director called a meeting and said, we cannot continue spending resources on a man with no identity and no family. He will be moved to the general ward and abandoned. On hearing this, Helen sat quietly, eyes fixed on the floor. Something in her heart broke. She remembered her mother, how they were abandoned. She remembered all those nights when no one stood for them. That night, Helen went to the unconscious man's bed. She stared at him, broken, fragile, helpless, and she said, I don't know who you are, she whispered, but I will not leave you like this. Then she went and took her own savings, money she had been saving for a small apartment, and paid for the man's drug. She bought his food, cleaned his wounds herself, and stayed with him during her night shifts, singing softly, reading him the Bible, and hoping he would wake up. Days turned into weeks. Other nurses mocked her and they said, maybe she's trying to marry a dead man. They laughed at her. But Helen didn't care. For her, it wasn't about love, it was about kindness, dignity, and giving someone the chance to live again. One evening, as Helen was cleaning his face with warm water, the man's fingers twitched, his eyes fluttered open. Slowly, painfully, he whispered, where, where am I? Helen gasped, her eyes filling with tears, and she shouted, you are safe. You are in the hospital. Don't worry. You are going to be fine, she told him. The man tried to speak but passed out again. The next morning, the hospital was buzzing. The man had woken up fully, and to everyone's shock, his identity was discovered. Michael Okon, the CEO of Okon Holdings, a billionaire businessman known throughout Nigeria and beyond. Everyone was stunned. The same man they abandoned was one of the richest men in Africa. Doctors rushed to attend to him. Nurses who ignored him now fought to change his sheets. The hospital management panicked. fearful of the scandal. But Michael Okun had one question and he said, "Where is the nurse who stayed with me? The one who saved me." Michael Okun's recovery was nothing short of a miracle. He had suffered head trauma, broken ribs, and was in a coma for weeks. But through it all, it was Helen who stayed by his side. Now that he was awake, the hospital transformed overnight from disregarded to worship. The same hospital directors who abandoned Michael now bowed in his presence and said, "Sir, we are truly sorry for the negligence," they said nervously. "We didn't know who you were, but please, sir, we are sorry." Michael said nothing. His piercing eyes scanned the room, searching. Finally, he spoke again and said, "Where is she? The nurse who stayed with me? Find her now and bring her to me." A junior nurse ran off and returned with Helen, who was nervous and confused. Michael's eyes lit up the moment he saw her, and he said, "You? You saved my life," he said, reaching for her hand. "What's your name?" Helen stammered and said, Helen Yusuf." Michael held her hand tightly and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me when everyone else did. Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you did for me." Then came media frenzy and rising jealousy. News broke out that billionaire Michael Okun was saved by an ordinary nurse. Social media, television, and newspapers were on fire. Helen became famous overnight. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Offers poured in, interviews, brand deals, even a scholarship abroad. But Helen declined them all. She wasn't seeking fame. Meanwhile, Nurse Sandra and Nurse Grace were furious. They watched Helen's rise with envy. "She bewitched him," Sandra hissed. "There's no way a fruit seller turned nurse get this lucky. She's a witch," they said. They hatched a plan to disgrace Helen, but little did they know Michael was watching everything. A bond deeper than words. As Michael recovered, he requested Helen to be his private nurse. She now worked in a luxury suite in the hospital, attending only to him. Days turned to weeks. They talked, laughed, and slowly a bond formed. Michael was drawn to Helen's humility, her strength, and her story. "She went through all that and still chose to help a stranger?" Michael asked one night. Helen smiled faintly and said, "My mother taught me to heal the world, one person at a time." Michael was speechless. One evening, he asked her to take a walk with him in the hospital garden. Under the moonlight, he held her hand and said, "Helen, I don't know what this feeling is, but you've touched my soul. I want to know you more." Helen froze. Her heart raced. Was this a dream? Just when things seemed perfect for Helen, a dark secret emerged. A mysterious woman named Vanessa, elegant and intimidating, appeared at the hospital. She claimed to be Michael's fiancée and she had documents to prove it. "Michael is mine," she told the hospital board. "We've been engaged for 2 years. That nurse, she's just his charity case," she said. Helen was shattered. Michael confronted Vanessa. He revealed they had broken up months ago, but Vanessa had refused to accept it. "You were never there when I needed you," Michael told her. And he said too, "And Helen, she gave me life again." But Vanessa wasn't done. She threatened to destroy Helen's life. And she said, "If you don't leave Michael for me, I will dig up your past, your poverty, your shame, and I will feed it to the media. You never know who you mess with." As all this was going on, one morning, Helen arrived at work to find herself suspended. You are under investigation, said the director. There are reports that you stole money from a patient. Helen was stunned. The patient, Michael, Vanessa had framed her up. Money was planted in Helen's locker. Her world collapsed. Media outlets turned on her, branding her a gold digger and a thief. Alone, broken, Helen walked the street, tears streaming down her face. But Michael wasn't fooled. He said, I know Helen. She would never do this. Then Michael used his influence to launch an investigation. Security footage exposed Vanessa planting the money. She was arrested, but the damage to Helen's reputation had been done. So after everything that afternoon, Michael went out to look for Helen. And Michael found Helen sitting by a bus stop holding her nursing badge, weeping. He knelt before her and said, Helen, my dear, I don't care about your past. I don't care what they say. You saved me. Now let me save you. I love you. Helen sobbed. I'm just a girl from Ningi. I don't belong in your world. Please, sir, leave me alone. Michael took her hand and said, You belong in my heart, my dear. Marry me. Right there, amidst dusty roads and traffic noise, Michael proposed with a ring he had been carrying for days. The news of billionaire Michael Okon proposing to a humble nurse from Ningi spread like wildfire. Some called it a fairy tale, others whispered it was a scam. But nothing could stop Michael and Helen. They were in love, a love built on sacrifice, not riches. Michael insisted on visiting Ningi to honor Helen's roots and meet her people. At first, Helen hesitated and she said, There is nothing for me there, sir, just pain and memories. But Michael said softly, Where you come from made you who you are. Let me walk that journey with you, he told her. When they arrived in Ningi, the entire village gathered. For the first time, Helen returned not as a poor orphan, but as a queen in the making. Old women wept, children danced. Michael renovated the local clinic, donated millions for widows and orphans, and rebuilt Helen's mother's house, which had been abandoned. But just as peace returned, a mysterious old man named Babayaro approached them and said, Helen, you don't know the truth about your mother. There is something you must hear. They met at night under the moonlight. Babayaro revealed that Helen's mother wasn't just a poor widow. She was once the rightful heir to a large parcel of land. Her family was wealthy, but her uncles seized everything after her husband's death, falsifying documents and branding her a curse. They robbed your mother, sent her into poverty, and cursed your name. You have royal blood, Helen, he told them. Helen was in shock. Michael vowed to fight for justice, but the uncles had power, influence, and connections to dangerous men. One night, while in Ningi, Michael received a threatening note which read, Leave Ningi or die. Stay out of family matters, the elders. Michael refused to back down and he said, I won't let anyone intimidate us, not now, not ever. The next day, armed men attacked their convoy as they traveled back to the city. Bullets flew, tires scratched, and chaos erupted. Michael shielded Helen, taking a bullet to the shoulder. Michael was rushed back to the hospital, fighting for his life, blood everywhere. Doctors panicked. Helen's worst nightmare returned. But this time, the man she loved was at death's door again. Oh God, please don't take him, Helen cried, holding his hand. For days, Michael was unconscious. Helen refused to sleep, eat, or leave his side. She prayed, she sang hymns her mother taught her, and begged for a miracle. Then, one night, Michael's fingers moved. Helen, he whispered. Wow, he survived it. Michael recovered, stronger than ever. They reported the attack, and Helen's uncles were arrested. The courts restored her mother's stolen property, and Helen donated it to build a school and hospital in her mother's name. I'm not here for revenge, Helen said. I'm here to heal and uplift. The world watched in awe. Michael and Helen finally married in a grand yet humble ceremony. Dignitaries, villagers, orphans, widows all attended. Helen wore her mother's old necklace, a symbol of her journey. Just when they thought their story had ended, a strange woman approached Helen after the wedding and she said, My name is Aisha. I I was your mother's friend before she died. She gave me something, someone. She unveiled a 12-year-old girl, shy and quiet. This is your sister, Zainab. Your mother gave birth to her secretly before she died. She feared your uncles would harm her. Helen collapsed in tears and said, I thought I was alone all my life, but I had a sister. Michael embraced them both and said, This is only the beginning of a greater journey. Helen had barely begun to settle into her new life when she realized that wealth brought its own battles. From a humble nurse who once scrubbed floors and sold fruit in Ningi, she was now Helen Yusuf Okun, the wife of one of Nigeria's richest men. But Helen remained grounded, often visiting the hospital to volunteer and personally checking on patients who reminded her of her journey. Her love for her sister Zainab grew daily. The girl had been quiet, traumatized by years of hiding. But under Helen's care, she blossomed. Michael too adored her and made her feel like a princess. Together, they curated the Mama Yusuf Foundation for widows, orphans, and the sick, honoring Helen's mother. But beneath the surface of their happiness, a storm brewed. Michael's business empire, Okon Holdings, was thriving, but during a board meeting, he received shocking news. 3 billion naira had vanished from one of the company's investment arms. The traitor, his childhood friend and business partner, Victor Akpan, Michael was stunned. Victor had stood beside him during their university days through the building of Okun Holdings. When Michael confronted him, Victor sneered and said, You think marrying a village nurse makes you untouchable? I deserve more, Michael. I deserve more. I am the real mind behind this empire. Michael reported the matter, but Victor had covered his tracks. The company faced scandal. The media exploded, and Michael's net worth dropped overnight. People mocked Helen, calling her the cause from Ningi. Rumors swelled that she brought Michael bad luck. Some of her old jealous co-nurses joined the gossip. Helen refused to hide. Instead, she took action, using her intimate knowledge of Michael's business and lessons she'd learned from suffering. She led a press conference and she said, I am not a curse. I am a survivor. My husband will rise again, and I will stand by him always and forever. Her speech went viral. Support poured in. Ordinary people, especially women and youth, rallied around Helen, calling her Queen of Resilience. She launched a truth and transparency campaign for ethical business practices. Meanwhile, Helen investigated Victor secretly. She returned to Ningi and discovered that Victor had hidden the stolen funds in real estate schemes there, exploiting the land her uncles had once stolen. In a dramatic turn, Helen worked with local authorities and Michael's legal team to expose Victor. He was arrested during a lavish party and the money was recovered. But just as they celebrated victory, Michael collapsed during a public speech. Doctors diagnosed him with a rare heart condition worsened by stress. They said he needs a transplant, the doctor said gravely, soon. Helen was shattered but didn't give up. She mobilized her foundation, searched globally, and finally found a donor in India. But the transplant cost was high, and Michael refused to use company funds or Helen's dowry. And he said, I can't let you suffer again because of me. Helen made a decision. She sold her jewelry, her personal property, and even mortgaged her newly built hospital in Ningi to raise the money. Michael received the transplant and survived. A year later, Michael stood on stage at the Global Humanitarian Awards. Helen was honored for her courage, love, and integrity, and he said, she saved my life not once, but twice. She gave me love, hope, and purpose. Helen Yusuf Okun is not just my wife, she is my angel. They kissed, tears in their eyes, as the crowd rose in applause. Helen opened more hospitals across Nigeria, focusing on rural health. Zainab became a doctor. Helen and Michael had two children, naming their daughter Amira after Helen's mother, and their son Yusuf after Helen's late father. From orphan to queen, nurse to national icon, Helen proved that kindness, faith, and perseverance can turn tragedy into triumph. Thank you for watching. This is where our story ends. But before we round it up, let's look into our moral lessons. Kindness has power. Never underestimate the impact of a single compassionate act. You might just be saving a future king or queen. Perseverance turns pain into purpose. No matter how hard life gets, never stop pushing. Your suffering can become the very tool that shapes your greatness. Integrity always wins in the end. Stay true to your values. Even when people mock or betray you, truth and honor will always shine through. Love is not about wealth, but about sacrifice. True love is not found in riches, but in those who stand with you when you have nothing. Your background doesn't define your future. Helen was born into struggle, but she rose to impact millions. Your beginnings do not determine your end. In conclusion, life gave Helen every reason to give up, but she chose to rise, to serve, and to love without expectation. Her story is a powerful reminder that every act of kindness sows a seed, and that one seed can grow into a destiny greater than you could ever imagine. From an abandoned child to a savior of lives to a queen of hearts, Helen's journey teaches us that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've lost, your story is not over until God says it is. This concludes our story. Thank you once again for watching this heart-touching story. If this video moved you, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your families and friends, and subscribe for more life-changing African stories. New stories drop every week, filled with drama, redemption, and deep lessons from our culture and everyday life. Please, if you have story to share with us, don't hesitate to contact us or you mail us. Tell us the story and we will come here and share it with people. Until next time, remember, sometimes what you see on the outside is just a disguise, but what's hidden inside can be a treasure beyond gold. This is Olu Beauty African Folktales channel, telling real stories that touch real hearts. And please don't forget to touch the bell button so that you'll be notified each time we put out new video. Subscribe for more stories with powerful life lessons. And please, Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section, your question or your suggestion, and we will come back to deal with it. God bless you all as you do so. Love you. Bye bye. Mwah.